Hello Duelists, it's Tom Box here, welcome to MST.TV, and in this video we're going to be talking about Zoom engines, and engines has been like a huge part of 2017's Yu-Gi-Oh! Because of the archetypes that were introduced. Now for those of you guys who are newer to Yu-Gi-Oh! Or perhaps just new to my channel and just don't know what I'm talking about, a quick definition of engines would be like this. An engine is a core chunk of cards in your main deck or extra deck that is made to synergize, speed up, set up big plays that is part of your archetype. Now an engine can also be part of the win condition, or it could not be part of the win condition, just meant to speed up your deck. A strong engine will lead to faster, more consistent plays, whereas a crappy engine basically will hurl a brick into your strategies. Sounds simple enough. I'll give you guys a contextual one, just so that we're all on the same page. Just for context's sake, the very first engine that I personally played was the Destiny Hero engine. So Hero engine was a very fast draw engine back in 2007, 2008, and we're going like 10 years back here. And, well, this engine would be the Dark Draw engine, as most people would call it back in the day, which was made up of heroes from Stratos. You would dig out Stratos or Disc Commander. Of course, some of these cards are banned because Disc Commanders pot agree with legs. And there's Destiny Draw, which would throw your Destiny heroes into the graveyard, which this engine was basically a grave synergy with a lot of draws and special summons, and you would throw Malicious into the graveyard, summon Stratos, get Malicious, throw D-Draw, draw more cards, or get Disc Commander. If you have the ability to revive Disc Commander, then you would revive the Disc Commander for additional draws, and you would play additional D-Heroes just so that you would speed up your chances of using that D-Draw. Anyways, that would be the original engine that I played, and let's actually get to the list of, well, 2017. Alright, so for the first engine we're going to talk about is the Brilliant engine, named after Brilliant Fusion. This engine offers you a light monster mill, an additional normal summon, as well as a body on the field. Sure, the Seraphonite does eat up your extra monster zone, but the offering of additional normal summon will allow you to link off Seraphonite fairly quickly, allowing you to access your extra deck while keeping your original normal summon. Now, milling a light monster is a huge deal because there's tons of decks that would enjoy a light mill, and let's look at the roster here. The roster includes triple Brilliant Fusion, sometimes a Lazuli, sometimes a Garnet. Those are the most popular choices, and usually you will see at least one Seraphonite, sometimes two. Unlikely there's two, since extra deck space is very, very important, and you can't waste it on anything. And then we have the light targets. We have Fairy Tale Snow. We have what's this guy here? The original guy that got milled, Perform Age Trick Clown. And he just summons himself out when he's milled to the graveyard. So you got that going for you. And during the Monarch era, we had the Dark Angel. And for those of us who want to play Synchros, we threw in Lazuli and a Galaxy Serpent, oh my god, Galaxy Serpent, to get ourselves a level 2 tuner that we can use the additional normal summon to perform a Synchro with, giving us a Synchro 7, a Black Rose, an Ancient Fairy, you name it. Synchro 7s are available thanks to this card. And, well, even ABCs can play it. You can make big Synchro plays. Necros can play it. They can actually summon Trish through a Trick Clown and this Seraphonite. So, all in all, there's tons of great things that this card can offer. And this engine is one of the most popular ones out there. So if you guys didn't know about it, well, you've been probably living under a rock, or you're just new to the game. Let's move on to the next engine. The second engine I want to talk about here would be the Invoked engine. Now, let's go over this roster here that was introduced by Fusion Enforcers. So we have Triple Alistair here. Most people usually run 2 to 3 copies of this card because it is one of your main fusion material. Then we have the fusion stuff. We have Magellanica, which is the light. We have the Fire Purgatrio. We have Earth Magellanica. We have Water Coxitus. And we have Raijin, which is wind. So they all do different things. One of them is a vanilla, but we'll talk about that in a bit. And then we have a pair of Invocation, because Invocation is your fusion spell that can be searched by Alistair. And then there is Magical Meltdown, which searches the Alistair that leads you into the Invocation. And it also provides you an effect where the fusion summoning cannot be negated, yada yada yada. A lot of fusion protection. Anyways, about this archetype, this is a multi-attribute support engine where if you have multiple attributes in your deck, why not try out the Invoke stuff, because the Invoke stuff will be able to offer you some of the most powerful monsters. Although most commonly people run this with a light archetype, like artifacts, You can even try ABCs with this. I wouldn't recommend it, but some people play Photon Thrashers back in the day when they just came out, just so that they can spam up Magalonica. Magalonica is the one that has the ability to negate anything. Coxitus is a surprise OTK. If your opponent decides to play Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, this gives you the option to actually summon up Purgatrio. Purgatrio attacks everything and pierces. Magalonica is just a big beater, 3k beater with a 33 booty. And then we have Coxitus, which slows the game down, I believe. Actually, no, this is the, not the dark one. There's also a dark one here, but not a lot of people play them. But Coxitus is the one that allows you to attack in defense mode, and you can't be destroyed by card effects, I believe. Yeah, cannot be destroyed by card effects. Anyways, we also have Raijin. Raijin is Book of Moon with legs. So, the fusion recipes would just require a matching attribute with Alistair. That's about it. So, all in all, because it is a spellcaster archetype, it is very easy to play this deck. Wind Witches can play it because they're all spellcasters and they have special summons, so then they can use the normal summon for the Alistair. If you have a lot of special summons, definitely give this one a try. So the third engine I want to talk about would be the Artifact engine. Now, rather than be known for its power and its ability to set up plays, it does the exact opposite. It actually stuns plays of your opponent and slows the game down, just so that they can't keep up with your pace by, well, you tripping them over with a summon of a Scythe through Sanctum. Now, Sanctum is one of the most powerful cards in the deck because it summons out an artifact straight from the deck. And you know what? Let's actually just look at the roster right here. We have Sanctums, which summons artifacts out of the deck, and usually artifacts gain their effects by being summoned during your opponent's turn, or it is sometime during your opponent's turn. Now, Scythe shuts down the extra deck. Your opponent cannot summon cards from the extra deck when this card is special summoned. And then there is Lancia. Lancia, you can tribute this card whether it be on the field or from your hand, and then no one can banish any cards for the rest of the turn. Sounds simple enough, but these are very devastating effects, which earned Lancia's place in one of the best hand traps in the entire game. We also have the Moral Attack. Occasionally you'll see a Moral Attack in there. It is the popper. If you summon it during your opponent's turn, you can pop one card on the field, and it does not target, so that's a nice little bonus. And if you're brave enough to run Ignition, usually we don't see Ignition as much anymore because it's kind of cloggy. It acts as an MST that also sets an artifact onto the field. And yeah, artifacts, they can be set onto the field if you guys didn't notice that. And if your opponent pops it, well, it gets summoned onto the field if it's during your opponent's turn. Now, one thing about Sanctum we should note is that there's a condition where you can't enter the battle phase, but also, if your opponent decides to destroy it, well, they're going to get punished because Sanctum will be able to destroy one card on their side of the field. So overall, you get a bit of protection and your opponent gets punished for trying to even blow it up. But yeah, artifacts being a light archetype, well, you can actually synergize this with the previous engine, which would be the Invoke, so you can get Macabre with all this stuff. If you draw into these guys, it feels pretty bad. That is a bit of a weakness. If you draw too many pieces of this and then you brick your own engine, that is a bit unfortunate, but like most engines that you shove into a deck, there are bound to be ways that it turns into a bit of a dead draw. So that's artifacts for you. The fourth archetype to be known for an engine piece is the Lightsworn engine. This is a mill-based engine where you want to throw as many cards in the graveyard from your deck as soon as possible. This used to be a tier 1 deck, so back in the day of 2008, 2009-ish, it got really restricted with a lot of its cards kind of hitting the ban list, limited to 1, so it wasn't really seen as an engine. It was more of an archetype that will abuse the crap out of Judgment Dragon. But with the release of the structure deck and all the cards slowly coming back to us, and even a very easy access release of Minerva, well, this became an engine altogether once again, with Raiden being able to offer you 2 mills, an additional 2 mills during the end of the turn. Sometimes you're going to see people play Lumina. It's not likely the case. Usually people are more focused on just using Raiden a lot more often. Sometimes you'll see a Lila in there because Lila is able to pop back row, but that's just some occasions. But usually what people want to mill into the graveyard will be the Fairy Tale Snows and sometimes the Trick Clan. If they manage to mill this, they're going to go into Minerva, which allows them to mill even more cards into the graveyard fairly quickly. And Minerva having some graveyard-based effects and the ability to draw cards if you do mill more Lightsworn, there's huge benefits on that. But back then, Charge of the Light Brigade was set to 1, so it wasn't a thing. But since Charge is at 3 now, and it is not limited to once per turn, Just simply activating charge will allow you to mill 3 cards straight as cost into the graveyard, and then you get to search yourself a ride-in, which allows you to mill 2 more cards, and if you're lucky, all in all, you'll be able to go into Minerva and keep on milling. So you can easily get a 10 card mill straight from the get-go. Of course, this is not as fast as Grass is Greener, but if you're going to be playing a mill-based deck and you're playing 60 cards, you're going to see a lot of these Lightsworn things going. So if you're going to be playing Lightsworn or maybe even Twilight, if you play a mix of light and dark, this is something that you can also consider, but this is fairly common in Infernoid decks too. Now, I never thought that I would actually call Spellbooks an engine, but this isn't a generic Spellcaster engine for draw power, because of the fact that they released Spellbook of Knowledge, and Spellbook of Knowledge allows a lot of Spellcaster decks that are able to synergize with the graveyard to draw 2 cards into their combo fairly quickly. And the whole roster here, let's just actually go over it right now. We have Spellbook of Knowledge, which allows you to send a Spellcaster you control to the graveyard to draw 2 cards. You can also send Spellbook cards from your hand to the graveyard to draw 2 cards as well. So a little bit more advantage for Spellbook players. But generic Spellcaster decks, like the Invoke stuff, we have also Wind Witches that are also able to benefit off of this card. And the engine is fairly simple. If you open with 1 Secrets, you can go into Blue Boy, and then Blue Boy will get yourself the Knowledge, and then you can send Blue Boy into the graveyard, offering you the additional 2 draw. Or if you go the other route around, where you open with a Blue Boy, then you can go into Spellbook of Secrets, and then Spellbook of Secrets into the Knowledge. All in all, you're able to thin 2 to 4 cards fairly quickly out of the deck, giving you a much smaller deck to play with, which is good for consistency. Now, I can't move on 2017 without talking about the Dragonic Diagram, one of the best engines in the game, I would say, especially in 2017, where it was also a very good archetype. The archetype was neutered by the ban list because of how good it was, and it was really annoying to deal with at Dynamite Knight, but that card got banned, and even Ignis got limited to 1. But we still have our Masterpieces, and Masterpiece was the bane of a lot of players already. Now, this engine was specifically made to, well, self-destruct. Well, by self-destructing, I mean destroying your own cards with card effects, triggering additional effects, giving you that, well, destruction-based synergy that a lot of archetypes did not offer. You could have used Fire King Island, but you'd be forced to run Fire Kings, and we all know how Fire King Island works. You pop that Fire King Island, you blow up your entire board. This one doesn't have that, that liability. And also, this card is not like hard once per turn. By hard once per turn, I mean if you have multiple copies, you can activate multiple copies. And this engine not only did it offer you like the ability to self-destruct for card effects and triggering, it was also a win condition on its own with Masterpiece, Ignis, all these powerful monsters. It also has a draw engine kind of built into it with True Draco's Heritage. Obviously, this became one of the most powerful cards available. And even the trap lineup wasn't too bad, because all the spells and trap it searched out offered effects to destroy monsters or spells and traps on the field. So all in all, this was just a full package. It's a full package deal. One of the best vacations you can go on. For the archetypes that this thing can synergize very well with, we have Dinosaurs or Zodiac, we have Invoke, Magic Bullets, Weather Painters, you name it, you can basically shove this engine in as long as you have some sort of destruction-based trigger. And for the 7th engine that was recently introduced into the game, we have the Destrudo engine, which is a Synchro 7 engine. Destrudo is a tuner monster that can be special summoned from the hand or grave by paying half your life points, and it will subtract its own level with the monster that you've targeted that is level 6 or lower, and well, you get a free summon out of that. Now, this is a tuner monster, so you're guaranteed to be able to synchro into a level 7 synchro monster. So the engine is actually just made up of a Destrudo. Some people would consider running Supreme King Dragon Darkworm because Darkworm is free, and the other cards that you run with it are able to throw them into the graveyard. Both cards are able to synergize very well in the graveyard. With a Dragon Shrine, Dragon Ravine, people just play additional field spells just to throw Destrudo into the graveyard, and that is why this is what this engine is. It's a fairly small engine, but you do have to use up some of your extra deck space. For an Ancient Fairy, if you do play a field spell based deck, you can actually use the pop off locking field spells and fetch your own, or you can blow up the entire field for free without even using your normal summon. And if you want to gain control over your opponent that plays high level monsters, you can also play Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. So these are all options for you when you play this engine. ABC is definitely a benefit off of this engine. You've seen Spiral players play this before, back when set rotation was at 3, but luckily set rotation is at 1 now, so The popularity of this engine definitely tanked a little, but all in all, this is an option that you can play if you're interested in getting some free summons and you don't mind throwing cards in. And for the best engines of 2017, as much as you guys hated it, a lot of you guys didn't even consider it as a deck. They consider it as a tier 0 engine, because as long as you shoved this into your deck became better. Yeah, so Zodiac. I remember during the release of Zodiac at YCS Seattle, every deck had Zodiac in it, and the prices of these cards were ridiculous. And this was the first archetype to have featured 3 secret rares in the same, set. That was kind of ridiculous. Now we had Rats. Rats was your summon engine, and Ram was your graveyard revival engine. And then you have your ability to remove monsters off of the field with banishing. You have piercing effects. You have the ability to summon straight from the deck. And then you also have your own Jar of Avarice to recycle everything. So it's very self-sustaining right from the get-go. But the Xyz monster kind of defeats the purpose of being an Xyz because it was a 1-card stack. You will have Hammer Kong, Broad Bull, which then would search yourself a card. And then you would go into, I don't know, say a Chalky Knight to revive another card, and then Dryden will give you a pop-up card. You can easily get like a +3, +4, +5 with this deck just with one single card, and that was driving people nuts. But, you know, back in the day when this archetype was released, we had Metaphor Zoo, which was still a thing when I was with Nats. We had Pure Zoo, we had True Draco Zoo, we had like Infernoid Zoo. We had so many Zoo decks that I don't even know what to say about this deck, because it was just ridiculously strong, and the consistency was a 1-card consistency with basically any of your monsters. And then it was able to set up even nastier plays with a Fusion Sub combo, and then they got rid of Fusion Sub, and then we went back to Link era, survived the Link era thanks to Mrs. Radiant, and then this engine of a deck was just all over the place. Oh my god. Thank god it was like banned off. We lost, of course, we lost our Broad Bull, we lost our Dryden. And losing Broad Bull was a huge, probably the bigger loss of all things, because if you're unable to put the first Zodiac into the graveyard, you can't trigger off any of your other Xyz monsters, which is basically why the deck kind of died out. But this was the most powerful engine of all time in 2017, and it is the most popular deck of all time. Tier 0 all the way. And that's it for the engines of 2017. If I missed any of the engines that you believe are very popular, I don't see people mixing in Trick Stars with anything else. If there's an archetype that you believe can just like be jammed into any other deck, let me know down in the comment section below. And I've made a t-shirt recently, which is the MST Negate t-shirt, just for troll purposes. Hey, Christmas is coming around. If you want a fun little t-shirt, by all means check out my Design by Human page. And there's also some fancy mats coming from Team Samurai X1 that he commissioned to me to do for him a year ago, and I finally finished it. You can go check that out as well. And if you guys enjoyed this video, hit me up with a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, hit that subscribe button down below here. And as always, love you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job, and you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.